Okay, so welcome everybody to a very exciting AMA here at DeFi Raiders, and thank you all so much for tuning in. My name is Relentless, here with my partner Degenic. We cannot be more excited about the opportunity we have today to speak with and learn from the dev team here for Spirit Swap. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time today, and welcome to our show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Thanks for having us on board. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I was super pumped when I reached out in the Discord and got a response, and spent a lot of time talking to Allspark, and I'm really pumped that it worked out. So, would you guys like to go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience? Tell everybody your background, what your role is at Spirit Swap, how you got on the team.
Yeah, okay. I'll go first. Hey, everybody, FTMD Gen, Nick. I kind of assist with operations coordination, I suppose. Just sort of making sure the right hand talks to the left hand and handling mod team management, community management, marketing, etc. Yeah, got on the team. Just started out as a community member really and kind of worked my way up. Yeah, couldn't be happier to be working, with Spirit Swap DAO and the rest of the guys here.
I guess I'll go next. My name is Heesh. I do research and development. A day usually looks like, I guess, a lot of reading about new protocols or what's out there, modeling different stuff, coding, and then I guess just getting pulled different ways whenever I'm needed.
And I'm Rob. I have a background in computer science and video game development, and I'm kind of acting as our PM, program manager or product manager, however you say it. And that's basically working closely with the devs and making sure that they're working on the right things at the right time and getting things done. And yeah, my role.
All right, appreciate that. Thanks, guys. All right, so first, congratulations on a very successful launch of V2. You guys really knocked this out of the park, I must say, and it was certainly no easy task because you overhauled the entire project. You rewrote the entire code, added and restructured so many features, and it was just such a huge task to accomplish, and you guys crushed it. So let's talk about some of the features. I mean, you guys added so much with the variable AMM, the stable AMM, the balancer tech, fee structure, everything. So we'd love to dive into some of that. I'd like to start with the introduction of the VAMM, SMM, or SAMM and balancer tech, unless you have something that you think builds into those better that you'd like to start with.
Yeah. So the VAMM is, I guess, a classic AMM that most people in DeFi are used to these days. It's just a Uni V2 style AMM. So it uses the X times Y equals K equation. The SAMM is optimized for, I guess, tokens that are in the same value. So that usually works out with stablecoins. So stablecoin pairings, or maybe like a wrapped FTM pairing with FTM itself. And it will provide much tighter slippage for trades when, I guess, the tokens are optimized for that stable range. The weighted AMM is, I guess, a balancer style AMM where you can put up to 8 tokens in there, and you can sort of decide what percentage of the LP you want your tokens to be at. So a lot of thing we've been seeing lately in DeFi is that 80-20 ratio. So it'll be like 80% governance token and then 20% FTM or something. And that will reduce impermanent loss and kind of give people more exposure to that governance token, which is typically what they want, at least in bull markets. That has not been implemented yet, but should be coming with V2.1.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Do you guys have a projected launch date for 2.1?
Yeah, we usually don't do dates.
That's
just
fair.
because in the past, yeah, you usually say a date and then things usually go longer than expected.
Yeah.
We've had some experiences with that. Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's it. I was just adding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Doubling down.
Makes sense. I don't disagree with
We've
that.
got it. We've got a couple of partners that we're also working. Like, if people haven't noticed, V2 is kind of like an amalgamation of like a lot of various protocols out there who either provide DeFi services or actually offer products that can be integrated themselves. There's a lot of partnership protocols that are sort of stitched into V2, and the balance attack, the weighted pools and linear stable pools that will accompany that. They're also going to be a product of a variety of different teams sort of putting effort into developing that. So that's kind of why we don't want to mention timeframes, just because when you're relying on variables that are outside of your control, it makes it super hard. We want to tell everybody a specific date, but there's always things that pop up. This is development for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally fair. And you don't want to have to go back and and have delays, right? It's just easier if you don't announce a date. I get that completely.
Yeah.
It's like every GameFi thing that I first got into when I first got into crypto is like, oh, we're launching on this date, and then it doesn't launch for months, and it creates a nightmare for you guys. So
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, as like a community member, you see it that way. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, what are these assholes up to? Like, what's going on here? But then when you're on the other side of the fence and you actually see how much coordination is actually involved in developing, of something like this, it totally makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
it kind of sucks too. I feel like people didn't believe us. That's at one point we kept pushing the date to commit to. Like, we're not going to announce a date. They're like, they're not working on anything.
I was super worried.
Guys, we've been working on stuff. Trust. So it felt really good to actually release something so they could see what we were working on and not just making things up. Yeah.
But I mean, look, it's all of the moving parts are there. It's just about stitching it together. At this point, there's still a few little bugs that we're ironing out with V2, which is part and parcel, with the whole process. But I think all in all, like, the launch went really well. I'm super happy with it, and we're sort of starting to see the flywheel, sort of turning over now, especially since full emissions have been sent to gauges this week. So the official transition has happened. Heesh, do you want to maybe talk about a little bit of the fee restructure?
that's what I was about to ask. Perfect.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess to start with, I can kind of cover what our V1 fees look like for liquidity providers or LPs. So when you hold an LP on V1, you hold a token, say one Spirit FTM LP, and it takes a 0.3% fee from every swap, and it kind of just like compounds it into that LP token. So you never really see your fees, or I guess like the underlying amount in the LP token going up. So it's kind of hard to track. In our V2, we've kind of separated out the fees from the LP token itself. So every LP token comes with an associated fee contract. And so the fees will kind of pour into that fee contract, and then LPs can claim them from there. And it's in the individual token. So if you have like a Spirit FTM LP and you're just holding it in your wallet, then you can claim your fees from the fee contract and you'll get Spirit and FTM tokens. So it kind of just like helps you track a little bit better. Building off of that, we've changed the fee structure quite a bit. So we have, I guess, what you could call variable fees. So we are able to change the fee rate whenever needed if the DAO decides to do so. So right now it's set at 0.18% for variable swaps and then 0.04% for stable swaps. If we decide that we need to be more competitive fee-wise, the DAO can vote to reduce those rates and go down all the way to 0.01% on both of those. And more on that, the fee, I guess, is split into three different parts. We have a protocol fee, a base fee, and then a voting fee. And so if you take that 0.18%, I'm just going to call it 0.2% for simplicity's sake. So 0.05%, 25% of the total 0.2%, would go to the protocol fee. And what that is any protocol that has a token and they have a pair on Spirit Swap V2, they can, I guess, assign that LP like a address. So typically it'd be like their multi-sig address or their treasury address, and they would receive 25% of all the swaps. So if you're a Liquid driver, you have an LQDR FTM pair on Spirit Swap. Say that it does $1,000 in fees today, then Liquid Driver's treasury would be earning $250. So that's 25% right there for the protocol fee. Another 25% goes to the base fee. And so this is what is used to purchase Spirit and then send to in-Spirit holders. So this is similar to what we had in V1. Nothing's really changed there. And then the rest of the percentage, which is 50%, goes to the voting fee. So when you deposit an LP in a gauge contract, essentially that's a farm, so you're farming Spirit. The fees from that LP go to the gauge contract, and then the gauge contract sends that to people who, in Spirit holders, who voted for that gauge. So it kind of establishes like a feedback loop of you have in Spirit and you think that this pair, say Liquid Driver FTM, will do high volume. You could vote that pair with your in Spirit and you'll be earning Liquid Driver tokens and Phantom tokens for doing so.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. I mean, you guys, so your old structure, right, because of the code, you couldn't change the fees, right? So you had to rewrite all the code for this.
Yeah, it was hard coded. So like if we wanted to make a change, we'd have to redeploy everything. But now like we can make a change without having to redeploy. And yeah, it's just much more fluid this way.
Heesh, I actually
Yeah,
have a question.
absolutely.
How does that work? What if other protocols do something similar to this, and they have a variable fee structure, and it just ends up being like a race to the bottom in terms of fees? I know you talked about
I
that
mean,
with Nick a
yeah,
while ago.
a
You
lot
guys
of
were
people
strategizing this.
a lot of people think it will end up being like a race to the bottom, but there's a point where like protocols are no longer profitable. For example, Solidly with that 0.01% fee, I think a lot of people realize like that's just like way too low. Like we're not making enough money to keep this flywheel going.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the profits that you're making right now are all, it's not a ton anyways, right? So if you race down to the bottom, I mean, how do you reward your investors if you don't get any swap fees to distro?
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like the revenue earning potential finds a floor eventually and bounces from that floor once, everyone
Yeah.
realizes
And
it's
I
not
guess
sustainable.
you could argue that like if the swap fees do drop that low and the flywheel kind of breaks, then you're going to be losing probably a lot of liquidity from your system and probably become like not so competitive after all.
Yeah. We do have a pretty big distribution coming this week, don't we, guys? I haven't really looked at the actual sum.
I mean, that's that's due to another component.
Yeah, it's additional
That
stuff.
that's sort of been built in. So a good segue into the VE33
Yeah.
aspects. Yesh, do you want to take it away? When you
absolutely.
were doing this, I was like, oh hell yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect timing.
Yeah, so in Spirit holders will notice that they're probably going to get a pretty big distribution of Spirit tokens this week, and that's due to our V33 tokenomics. So essentially what that does is when we emit Spirit tokens, we do it in such a way that anyone that has in Spirit locked up will never be diluted by farming emissions. And the way we do that is our contracts kind of look at like how much Spirit is locked up in Spirit, and then what's the circulating or I guess total supply of Spirit, and then it does some math there and decides how much Spirit to send to the fee distributor to give to in Spirit holders, and then how much to send to the farms. And it works out in such a way that if you lock up in Spirit, you'll never get diluted by farming emissions. So you'll pretty much like if you have 1% of the market cap now, no matter how much Spirit gets emitted, say 2 years from now, you'll still have 1% of the Spirit market cap if you're locked in Spirit. And what that allows people to do is, so now they don't really have to worry about their position getting diluted. They should be more willing to lock up in Spirit. And now they can just kind of sit back and vote for different farms or gauges and earn voting fees. So if you want to earn like stable coins, you can vote for the USDC DAI gauge, and you'll just be earning USDC and DAI while your in spirit position is just not getting diluted.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that's one of the things, right, that was originally attractive about the solidly model. Not so much their fee structure necessarily, but the non-dilution.
Yeah,
So
definitely. And I guess
I
one
guess
big difference between our model and the Solidly one is when you say you lock up in Solidly for 4 years and you receive that rebase also is locked for 4 years. So it doesn't really like do anything for you. Like you kind of like hardly notice it because you're not making any more money off of it. But in our model, we decided to give the in spirit holders unlocked spirit because they are taking on a big risk by locking up for so long. So when we distribute that rebase, that spirit token, the spirit tokens that they get are not locked up and they're just free. So they can either compound them, lock them up more if they want to continue maintaining that percentage of the market cap, or they can do something else with it on the market.
yeah, it does give people an incentive to lock because they do get to do what they want with their earnings and actually see that back in their wallet. So I think that was pretty awesome. I mean, I locked up a bunch, so I'm pretty happy with it so far.
Yeah.
Uh, so for some of these advantages, actually, I guess first what I want to talk about is another feature that looks like it could provide tremendous value is your approach to the lending and borrowing. Do you guys mind kind of breaking that down for us for anyone who's looking to move into lending and borrowing and how they can benefit from doing that through your platform?
Yeah, so that's done through our partners, Olaf Finance. They've done a really good job, but essentially it's just a money market where we can list Spirit. And because right now, Spirit isn't listed on any other money market, just because it doesn't have a chain link oracle. But when a token has, I guess, good enough liquidity on an exchange, it's able to be listed and using like the time weighted average price or TWAP. So yeah, if you want to passively make money by lending out certain assets with no exposure to impermanent losses, then that's usually a good option for people.
Yeah, and you guys aren't too spread out with your options. It has pretty what I think is good is it has pretty decent sustainable APYs for the ones that are attractive to people to lend and borrow.
Yeah, and we're also have some stuff coming up that kind of intertwines like our AMM with that money market. So those weighted pools, they also have like linear pool technology. So it's essentially like a weighted pool of stable coins using the stable swap equation though. But any liquidity that isn't necessarily being utilized is put into the money market on the supply side. So it kind of gives borrowers more liquidity if they want to borrow stable coins and stuff like that. And meanwhile, I guess if you're a liquidity provider, you're earning swap fees and interest rates from people borrowing off that money.
Oh, very nice. I'm intrigued to see the new rollout here soon. Awesome, thanks. So with these new features, right? What advantages do you feel these features give you over your competitors? What approach did you take compared to your competitors to really position yourself in front of, or at least in line with them?
Yeah. So I think our AMM technology is much more versatile. So right now we're using like a master router from Paraswap on our swap page. And essentially we could add like any AMM to our system. So if we come across new technology, or if we build out some new AMM, we can just like simply add it in without having to make like any changes to the core code base. So that's a big plus right there. And each AMM sort of has different advantages. For example, that stable swap AMM is very optimized for stable swaps, very low slippage and concentrated liquidity there. And then the classic AMM is just really good for supporting long tail assets. Really, if you just want a simple way to provide liquidity somewhere. And I think one other really big advantage to Spirit Swap V2 is that protocol fee. So if protocols are able to earn passively just by deciding where they want their community to provide liquidity, then I think it's just a clear choice to go to Spirit Swap and provide it there, because you're not going to be making any revenue anywhere else on any other decks on Phantom. And what that also does is it kind of provides protocols with a direct incentive to bribe on Spirit Swap, because when they bribe, they immediately get paid out by those swap fees. So this is kind of the first model in DeFi when a bribe not only increases the liquidity of your token that you're bribing for, but you are also earning revenue off of it.
Interesting. I like that. That's smart.
Yeah, that's part of, I guess, one part of the flywheel that we haven't really seen in the DeFi space. So I'm really excited to see that take off. Just kind of waiting for more liquidity to come over from V1 to V2 so we can really see it happen.
Yeah, the whole flywheel concept is very intriguing. It's kind of one of those new buzzwords that's going around, but
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I really like our tokenomics. I think it's new, it's different than most things out there, and I think if it does work out the way it's intended, then it should be really powerful.
Yeah, I agree. We'll talk about some of the when Nick gets on. We'll talk about some of the benefits there, the extra benefits of your tokenomics for the in-spirit lockers as well. All right, so transitioning just here a little bit, right? So is there any other new features that we may not be aware of that you guys want to talk about? I know Nick's got some questions, but
Anything I'm missing, Rob or
Do you guys want to talk about? Did you
DJ?
guys mention ecosystem farms at all? Possibly.
say that again.
Did you guys mention ecosystem farms, Heesh?
Oh no, we haven't yet.
I don't think we have, but
I mean, they're
essentially,
not
like,
here yet, but yeah.
yeah. So ecosystem farms are like permissionless farms. So anyone, I guess, with a project can deposit tokens there and decide which LP they want people to deposit, and people can deposit those LPs and start earning. The big difference between our ecosystem farms and other ones that you'll probably see on the market is that all the swap fees will go to the person that created that ecosystem farm. So if you say put up 100 USDC as rewards and say that you want FTM USDC as the LP token, people will deposit that FTM USDC LP token. They'll be earning USDC, which you put up as rewards, and then the person that put up that USDC will be earning all the swap fees from that FTM USDC token. So it's kind of like a different primitive where you're trading a token for swap fees. So if you think this pair is going to have really high volume, you can put up that ecosystem farm and I guess speculate that you'll earn more from the swap fees than you are paying out to the LPs.
Yeah, it kind of adds an element of game theory to it. I feel like a lot of V2 adds a lot of game theory to the mix, and like it's those in-spirit holders and those ecosystem participants, once they actually, or when they actually realize what's kind of available for them here, it gets really, really dynamic. I don't think a lot of people have figured it out yet. But like when the penny drops, I think there's huge opportunity for like your everyday community member to really get involved with the protocol, but also potentially profit from it along the way.
Yeah, and something I was thinking about the other day is the in-spirit position is essentially like you're providing liquidity, because if you're an in-spirit holder and you vote for the FTM die pool, you're earning all the swap fees from that LP, the LPs in that pool. So there's two ways to do that. You could either just hold the FTM die LP in your wallet and earn the swap fees, or you could be an in-spirit holder and vote for that pool. So now you're earning those swap fees just like you would be if you were holding that LP in your wallet, but you're not exposed to any impermanent loss. You're just exposed to the price of spirit or in-spirit.
Nick and Heesh, do either of you guys have screenshots of the UI for the ecosystem farm stuff?
I don't think so. I'd have to like go digging
looking-
pretty deep, probably.
Okay, I'm looking through JD's designs. I don't see it. I'll keep
Yeah, I was gonna say if you pull up the Figma files, I'm sure there'll be.
yeah, I'm there. I just don't see it. I'll try to dig while you guys are talking. Maybe you can post
I
it.
tell you what, Rob, delegate the job and just DM JD and just say, need this.
Yeah, I think he's asleep though. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, man, he shouldn't be asleep.
He hasn't
No,
responded
okay.
today.
Oh, JD. Okay, well, we'll try hunt them down and we can post them in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the ecosystem farms. Anything else we're missing? I guess talking about governance kind of could be another.
That's coming up. Don't worry.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we got some thorough questions for you on that.
Right. Okay, yeah, it was sweet. Well, let's push on if there's anything we've forgotten. There was so much to V2. It was funny, like the whole creation process just kind of like stuff. What V2's like original wireframe looks like, Jesus, I don't know, almost like the better part of 7-8 months back is like completely different to what we've got now. So it's it was such a large journey. But super fun along the way, glad to get it out.
Can I post the screenshots in the AMA questions channel?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
All right, so transitioning here a little bit. So another trend we're really starting to see, especially here in the Phantom ecosystem, are the moves cross-chain, like to Optimism and other platforms. Do you believe SpiritSwap is best positioned to reach maximum potential solely on Phantom, or are you guys thinking about some sort of transition? I know there's a lot of factors at play, of course, but there seems to be a general thought when you think about Phantom that Phantom's has been so focused on tech and ignored the business model, and that's kind of held it back. What are your thoughts there?
Nick, you want this one?
Yeah, I'll field this one. I mean, look, yeah. We've done 3 AMAs this week. Well, sorry, no, we'll end up. We've done 3 AMAs this week. Like this question's been asked on every single one. How do I put this? I mean, shit. I'm a statistics guy. You only have to kind of look at the figures, kind of see where market sentiment is at right now. I mean, Phantom was in top 4 maybe about 6 months ago, and now it's sitting down at sort of 10th in terms of total value locked on chain. It's hard. It's hard. I can't really comment as to what's going on at the foundation because I mean I don't know for certain. What I think has had a huge impact on this is the potential success of the ETH merge. I feel like a lot of community members don't really fully comprehend what the ETH merge is, and so potentially a lot more bullish in the short term on ETH than other roll up or layer one. That said, Arbitrum and Optimism have sort of been propelled ahead as well. So I think all of this is a lot of it is to do with the potential Ethereum merger and the benefits that will offer users of ERC20 standard processes and functions. As for Phantom, I mean, yeah, look, market sentiment, whole market's down. I don't really know what else to sort of comment on there. I think governance and a lot of our partners. I mean, a lot of the original protocols on Phantom are sort of looking to go multi-chain. At this point, we don't really make centralized decisions moving forward. So if there are community members that want us to chain or partners who want to help us and work with us to go multi-chain, then I'm sure that's eventually going to sort of wash out the woodwork there. But for now, I mean, it's just kind of like when the market's down, put your nose down to the grindstone and just keep working, keep building, keep researching. Ish is just sort of chewing through research documents at the moment. We're just trying to bash out bugs and focus on solid partnerships and working with key stakeholders of Inspirit. The DAO members, the custodians of the DAO, if you will, to identify what we need to keep doing to work towards making this DAO as successful as possible.
Yeah, fair. Good answer. It's just, yeah, like you said, you've been asked every time. It's just such a huge conversation right now with so many things going
Yeah,
multi-chain,
yeah,
and people want to
yeah,
know.
yeah. No, absolutely, and fair question. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this space sort of gravitates towards over the next sort of 12 to or even 6 to 12 months. I mean, shit, man, DeFi, you know, a month is like a year. So it'll be interesting to see where we're at in 12 months time. It'll be really cool to look back. Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys have anything else to add, Rob or Heesh, about that one.
Nope.
Yeah, nothing from me. That's good.
All right, thanks, guys. So I'll turn it over to my partner Degenik here. He wants to talk to you about some other things.
Yeah, thanks. Nice time for us to transition to governance and things like that. And thanks again, y'all, for joining us. So I'm curious, if you talk just a little bit about how you approach on-chain governance and decentralization, and related collaboration with other projects and protocols.
Yeah, I mean, so Spirit Swap is a DAO. Uh, as per DAO processes, we have to adhere to what the community vote for. We've taken that quite seriously in terms of being a contributing members of the development team that make up Spirit Swap. What's really cool is there's no ownership over Spirit Swap, like legitimately. We've got a multi-sig setup consisting of 7 fairly well-known and trustworthy individuals within the Phantom community. Michael Kong being one of the multi-sig members, Dr. Liquid from Liquid Driver, Ish and myself, Nazaru here, who represents Admin Guru, and a few other key players. Austin from Multi-Chain Alerts. What's he calling himself? But
Block bites.
Block bites. Thank you. Sorry, I fogged out then. But so I mean, they're sort of the custodians of Spirit Swap now. Community members can make proposals. When Spirit protocols can make proposals to the DAO. And that's what's super exciting about our governance processes. We want multiple teams contributing towards the future development of Spirit Swap V2 and other iterations moving forward. So we recommend a lot of protocols or any individuals who wish to actually push a proposal to the DAO to utilize our Commonwealth platform first. Essentially, that's a good way for community members who are going to be participating in governance able to kind of review the proposal in advance, give them time to ask questions and potentially, make policy change. So actively being a part of governance before that proposal is actually, made as a votable proposal to pass. At which point the community will then vote on this proposal. If the proposal passes, the multi-sig enact on it, and whichever parties are involved in the execution of that proposal is then carried out. So it could be, Rob, Heesh, and myself as the development team, or it could be another development team entirely. It could be another protocol. It could be the multi-sig funds. So I feel like this DAO process of making sure that everybody has a chance to ask questions, educating the community around the decisions that they need to make, and then being able to make informed decisions towards the advancement of the DAO and the product and the underlying protocol, Spirit Swap, is a good approach to take. That said, if anyone wants to add any ideas, vote for it, make a proposal. But yeah, no, it's exciting to sort of see where Spirit Swap is gravitating towards, and true decentralization taking hold here. Heesh, do you maybe want to talk about on-chain governance a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we've been using some form of on-chain governance for, I think, almost a year now. So the whole in-spirit voting system, I think that's like one of the only versions of on-chain governance that has worked really well so far, and that was started by Curve maybe a few years ago. I don't know at this point. But yeah, so giving the token holders the ability to vote on the farms rather than some sort of central party deciding what farms get what emissions has been pretty huge. We did notice some issues where it was kind of getting taken advantage of with people voting for farms that didn't necessarily provide the most value to the DAO or to the Spirit Swap ecosystem. And that's why we decided to introduce that voting fee to sort of incentivize people to vote for high volume pairs, because the higher the volume, the higher the voting fee will be. And yeah, it kind of just nudges people in the right direction when it comes to voting for gauge emissions. Otherwise, on-chain governance for the future, I think it'd be great to completely transition to that away from a multi-sig. I've never really been like a major fan of multi-sigs, and Phantom has such cheap gas fees that on-chain governance could make sense. So yeah, if we do go completely on-chain, that means that someone will put together a proposal along with some executable code, and once it passes, that code gets executed directly without any third party, such as a multi-sig, kind of having to sign off on everything. There's definitely like advantages and disadvantages there, but yeah, on-chain is just, I guess, the more decentralized way to go.
Holy grail decentralization. Well said, Heesh. Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's great. Now, would you talk a little more about the pros and cons of going to to full on-chain upgradability? Because I
Yeah.
know and even whether that's that the extent to which that's a goal for you.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say on-chain, I think it would slow things down a little bit, because when you have a multi-sig, you can make a proposal and just be like, okay, we need to, like, these are our expenses, because there's a lot of third parties involved when it comes to running Spirit Swap. Like, there's Admin Guru who takes care of all our admin and stuff on Discord, and so they need to be paid out of the DAO every certain time period. So when you have a multi-sig, you can kind of leave it up to the multi-sig members to make sure the admin guru is getting paid. When it's on chain, like, that's going to look a little bit different. Like, you probably got to give them like a big lump sum up front, or maybe there's new technologies coming out like Llama Pay where you can kind of stream it. So there are some kind of things that can slow it down, but as technology improves, I think the experience should be much better.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing developments in that area. So the other big part of governance is just engagement. So how would you all talk a little bit about how you encourage and maintain engagement?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so from a PR and communications perspective, and even education perspective, we hold weekly fireside chats in our Discord server. So we heavily market those to make sure that Inspirit users who are actively involved in governance, they've got the means to be able to access resources of information, and not even information, just more like discussions, learned discussions and debates about any of the intricacies or nuances related to any particular proposal that's been made to the DAO. A house of commons, I suppose, if you will, the degenerate crypto version. But in any case, we make sure that there is always educational routes available. We're constantly putting information out, and guides and series surrounding, how to actually get involved with the Spirit Spot protocol, but also, what kind of impact their decisions as Inspirit holders are going to, have on the protocol surrounding the way that they vote. So making sure that all key questions are asked. The Commonwealth platform is another example of this. If someone's making a proposal, we actively make sure that our community members are aware of this, so they can actively engage whoever's making the proposal in order to quiz them and gain more insight into the potential impacts of the decision that particular Inspirit holder makes over governance. the thing with civil governance is, it can be a double-edged sword. And that's essentially what DAO is. It's civil governance is giving the power to the people rather than centralized entity. But the way that can cut both ways is, if your community is not well surrounding the roll-on effects of the decisions that they're making, then things can go south very quickly. So it's like a balancing act of making sure that learned people are making decisions. That's generally why companies have boards of directors, although it's centralized and allows for a whole other plethora of problems. Their people kind of know what are meant to know what they're doing. So it's about making sure that people are engaged, informed, and wanting to participate in governance. I'd kind of like to see a model take place where active governance participants are rewarded more heavily. I might think up a proposal of myself to make to the DAO. Because one thing that we see more often than not, it's usually only a niche group of people who are interested in actually performing governance, so which is fine, retail investment, people who are sort of just passive investors and, want to sit on the sidelines. That's fine as well. But I think it's the people that are actively involved in, pushing for policy change surrounding, how Spirit Spot can be made even better, and getting more involved in that. It'd be cool to see those people rewarded as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We talked to Synthetics earlier in the week, and they mentioned that their LP rewards for their staking rewards rather for synthetic stakers expire after a week, and it's precisely to encourage engagement with the protocol and with governance.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, also related to this, you guys recently rolled out FNFTs. Speaking of governance, so would you talk a little bit about how these fit in and how they either enhance or replace the existing in-spirit locking mechanism?
Heath, do you want to take this one, dude?
Sure. So I think you're a little more on top of NFTs than me, but essentially they're from Revest, and instead of locking up your in-spirit directly in your wallet, you would be locking it into an NFT, and so you can essentially transfer that NFT to other wallets, so it remains sort of liquid, not completely liquid, just because NFTs typically don't really have much liquidity anyways, but it gives you that option. Like if you've ever locked up in Spirit in a wallet and been like, oh shit, I wish I locked this up in a different wallet because it's a hardware wallet and I want my stuff to be in a hardware wallet. You don't really have an option right now, but if you're locked up in an FNFT, you can just transfer that NFT directly to the other wallet, or list it on PaintSwap, and try to sell it there. So it kind of gives you a little more options as an in-spirit holder. You can get this semi-liquid, albeit much more liquid than what you would have if you just directly locked up your in-spirit.
Yeah, I guess further to that, there's some other exciting partnerships coming out. Well, when I say partnerships, I mean the DAO needs to pass them. That's very presumptive of me, but I mean the proposals are so damn good it would be nonsensical for people to not vote it in. In any case, like the application of Gumball Protocol, I think they'll be making a proposal to the DAO soon. I last spoke with them a few weeks back in an AMA, and what Gumball Protocol did was they actually allow to bring true liquidity to NFTs. So if there were like a three-way collaboration between Revest and Gumball, that would, in theory, if the stars aligned and if proposals were made and passed, allow for in-spirit to be pre-minted into a FNFT via Revest, but then launched as a Gumball GLP. That would essentially give your in-spirit and liquid position liquidity via a bonding curve model, but also the ability to then borrow against that asset as well. I'm not saying that's happening, but I'm saying in theory that's totally possible. And this is the cool part about Spirit Swap's, I guess, overall decentralized nature is if people spot opportunities and then see those opportunities as a way to better the protocol in a whole, they can make a proposal for that to happen. And the best part is if you're an Inspirit holder, you can always figure out ways for you to be able to profit out of I guess designing that particular strategy or that particular partnership. The world's your oyster. You just got to sort of spot opportunity and get amongst it. Yeah, lots of potential.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So I think so. Last question on kind of on governance and partnerships is how do you, how do partner relations impact governance, and how do you think about keeping any one project or team from acquiring too much control, or is that an issue at all?
Maybe everyone could have a comment about this. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we don't how do I put this? We don't control over what happens. That's kind of the whole point in this is we don't want ownership. We don't. It's not that we don't care, but it's like you can't worry about something that's not in your direct control. Evidently, yeah, Liquid Driver has certainly seen the potential to work in with and profit from and mutually, sort of add mutual benefit to Spirit Swap. And other protocols, such as, the various protocols out there have also seen this opportunity and taken advantage of it. So, I mean, they're first movers. Eventually some diluted over time. But ultimately, it's not in our hands, I guess the flip side to that is, for people who do have large ownership, or protocols, I suppose, who do have large ownership over Spirit Swap, they've got a vested interest. And if they're a protocol, they've got technical ability to be able to add value to the DAO. They're essentially, it's either mutually assured, destruction. If they do something that's harmful to the DAO, it's going to affect them having such a large stakehold. Whereas if they add benefit to the DAO and, use their sway over governance to actually add benefit and make Spirit Swap a better protocol, it'll be like a reciprocal, positive feedback loop. So I guess it really comes down to the argument between centralization and decentralization. Yes, it's centralized in a way, but I don't know. My personal opinion is I don't really see a problem with who currently has a decent stakeholder over Spirit Swap. Heesh, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was really well said. Like someone or an entity like Liquid Driver has a vested interest in seeing Spirit Swap do well. And on top of that, it's not like Liquid Driver is a person. It's also like a decentralized protocol. So you could also argue that it's not necessarily centralized as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just see it as like expanding our dev team to be
yeah.
Great.
I mean, essentially, if you're Inspirit's become almost like a very business to business centric model, and I guess the application of Linspirit, for example, is in effect a way to filter out the passive investors from the people who actively want to be involved in governance. Like, for example, if you're wanting a passive approach towards reaping all of the benefits from Inspirit, we're not really too concerned or worried about governance, then you could go the Linspirit route. Whereas people who are actively want to have a vested interest in changing Spirit Swap and profiting from that themselves, definitely incentivized to take the Inspirit route. At the end of the day, look, it's just going to be really cool to see how everything sort of eventuates and develops over time. Yeah.
Yeah, that is super cool, and clearly you guys have a fairly long history for DeFi of successful collaborations across a variety of teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the list would be too long, but that's what we really love about our approach is working with people. You learn new things from one another. You add value to each other's protocols, and you network and make really strong connections along the way, which is ultimately useful for further development, not just from a tech perspective, but a business perspective as well. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And yeah, got to lead you to develop everything, move faster. All right, and with that, Relentless, back to you.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I think just on that, I think it's awesome what you guys are doing with the partnerships, right? Just because it brings, just from developer team standpoint, you guys bring so many different minds and insights and different ideas that you all had together, and then you bring, such a wider community to your project to really drive governance and different projects. We're thinking different things, and you bring those things together to merge, and it just I think it creates a perfect storm to really move forward. So I think that's awesome what you guys are doing. Uh, so I guess kind of transition to our last question. We have one from the audience from Logus that I'll bring up here in a second. So considering all the changes and all the relationships, there's a lot to think about in terms of what your project's role could be as DeFi begins to blend with TradFi, right? As we begin to see an institutional investment in blockchain. How do you see Spirit Swap working within the infrastructure of that financial market, and what role do you envision playing as TradFi money begins to invest? And then what kind of scaling do you think would be required for you to meet the demands of that type of volume moving to the blockchain?
I would say that I kind of view Spirit Swap as like a liquidity engine. I think DeFi, one of the biggest inventions that came out of DeFi is kind of being able to assign liquidity as a unit in the form of an LP token. And that's not really something you can do anywhere else. And I think that that's really cool. And so I kind of imagine Spirit Swap as a way to direct where that liquidity goes. If you have in Spirit, you kind of direct where it goes with your voting on chain. And yeah, just the liquidity engine. Scaling wise, I think it'll really come down to, I guess, the underlying technology of the chain you're built on. L2s have been getting a lot of traction and they seem to be doing really well.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to watch that play out. I know it's a topic of conversation, the TradFi and overlap with DeFi and how that's going to play out. And so I'm interested. I think projects like yourself have made the right moves in the right time to begin to transition to that too. So if you guys have time, we got one audience question here.
Yeah.
It's kind of a statement question, so I got to reword it for him here. Says, I guess, will SpiritSwap update its UI with a mechanism for monitoring the main liquidity, for example, to keep track of all profits and losses, check the risk, among others?
Like a analytics type page.
Yeah, I guess kind of sort of. I think that's what he's getting at. And then
Yeah. He's not here today, but Sid has built one. I don't think we've deployed it on, I guess, on our website yet, though. He's probably just touching it up and testing it.
Yeah, could you do you mind like what analytics would be covered? What would we be able to see on that?
Oh, I guess just like volume analytics, liquidity analytics, fees, some sort of graph
Inspirit,
functions.
Inspirit distribution history, things like that.
Yeah, and then there's, if you do really like tracking like impermanent loss and like some really in detailed statistics on your liquidity positions, there's, oh man, I forgot what they're called. There's this really good analytical tool that I was using back in the day. I can't think of the name right now, but if I do, I'll post it in the chat.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, data heads love that stuff. And I think it's really cool to see. I think it should, highlights progression too. And brings, another level of transparency, I think, that a lot of people are looking for. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, you gotta love the statistics and stuff like that. I think it's really helpful.
All right, so that was the only audience question that we had. So one final question for you guys. What's the one piece of advice you'd like to give people that are just getting into the space or still relatively new to DeFi? Or what would you like to see change about people's mindsets going forward, or any advice you'd like to give to the community to help them be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I would say get out there and experiment. Like you could read as much as you want, but I think the real learning happens when you start actually like really using the protocols and experimenting with them. And this is one big experiment, so it's yeah, that's how I enjoy the DeFi space, just trying new things.
All right. Yeah, I have to say I agree with that. I mean, when I first started in DeFi, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I should have probably just waited a little bit to experiment the way that I did. But hey, I learned a lot of lessons there, and it helped me navigate. So I appreciate that. Um, so with that, unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about, or there's no other questions, I think that kind of finishes us up.
Cool.
Thanks so much, man,
Thanks for having us.
for having us on board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for having us.